It's so dark, it's hard to figure out where to turn.
It is, once I get past the El Governor, I have to, or 15th Street, I have to start counting streets to make sure I turn in the right spot.
Yeah, especially since they cleaned up 15th.
Yeah, I can't tell, they
Yeah.
took Chuck's Motel away.
These are for
They
this
took Chuck's
fiscal year.
Motel away off of 15th Street, so I have to start
The
counting.
bank's gone, so, yeah.
Yeah, that broken down hotel was my landlord, right? I can find
I
it.
know.
Now I'm driving
Yeah.
up past 15th the other way.
Did you see, he did manage to get that half that was remaining that wasn't, he
Saw it.
managed to get that on those pilings. I don't know how he managed that. That was, old Ducky Johnson's son who did that.
Crazy. All right, well, let's go ahead and start. Call the December Planning and Zoning meeting for Mexico Beach to order. And Jennifer, would you take the roll for us?
Mr. Hogan, Ms. Metcalf, Mr. Kerrigan, Mr. Driver,
Here.
Mr. Masters,
Here?
Ms. Lindsay, Mr. Bush.
Here.
Okay. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna call Gina in real quick.
Okay.
Says she had some car trouble or something.
Yes, she went and bought a car and then it broke down on the way home.
I hope it was secondhand, not new, yeah.
Hey, can you hear me? Okay, hold on, I'm gonna put you on speaker. Okay.
Thanks for the effort, Gina. This is Bill.
Hey, Bill, no problem.
All right. We hope you'll get back safe. In
I think we will.
a reasonable amount of time.
Right.
So, we need to do the minutes, first. We have, old minutes that Jennifer's gonna have Jim take a look at and go through. And then we have 3 sets of minutes, March 4th, April 1st, and May 6th in our packet. I breezed through them, looked like most of the information was there that we needed to have, and we also, of course, have video of the minutes if any question comes up. So, do we have a motion to accept the minutes of March 4th, April 1st, and May 6th? Or do we have any comments on any of the minutes?
I reviewed them, I believe that they're correct in their entirety, so I make a motion that we approve all 3 sets of minutes. as
Okay.
written.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right.
Okay.
Call the roll when you're ready.
Mr. Driver,
Yes.
Mr. Masters,
Yes.
Mr. Bush.
Yes.
If you want, you can sit at the table here. It's hard to hear back there. Since we have such a big crowd tonight, make it a little easier.
Lance, you wanna jump up here too?
I'm charging my service just a
I got a charger over here, a plug over here. We can work you in.
Right. So
When
you got a
you
little
sit at the
crazy.
table, that means you're responsible for any bad decisions we make.
Is this good right here?
Sure. Jennifer's ready.
Sorry, outwards are a pain in the butt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll give the usual speech while she's doing that. We're a voluntary advisory board, so anybody that has any business here tonight needs to follow up regardless of our decision and go to the council meeting, which is next Tuesday, correct, Jennifer?
Correct.
And that's the 1 o'clock,
Tuesday at 1 o'clock.
Tuesday at 1 o'clock. So that's the final deciding vote. So we have a pretty good record with them, so it is helpful to go through it here. First one, I'm gonna open a public meeting. What we do is we have a public meeting. Anybody who's here representing the property, anybody, neighbor, or anybody that has anything to say about it, can certainly speak. We'll ask some questions, and then we'll close that meeting. Then the board will talk about anything that we feel like we need to follow up, talk about, and then we typically have a vote on what our decision is on that. So first one on the agenda is replat request, 113 39th Street South, Unit 1. In the packet, just for information, is a letter from Gail Dwyer that I received that I had Jennifer print for us. She's in favor of having the replat request approved, and this is one that's similar to one that we've already approved. So, we'll open the meeting, and is there anybody here representing those properties?
Rick and Iris Bittner,
Okay,
we're the owners.
can you give us an overview?
Yes, sir, those are, we own the two southerly units of what used to be a 6-unit townhouse, which were all destroyed in the hurricane. What we're asking consideration of, we had two individual townhouses. We are working with our neighbor to the north of us, that was the third unit of 6, that was also destroyed, to request that we purchase his lot and then make our 2 lots encompassing that third lot. So we would now be replatting the 3 into 2. So we would be downzoning into 2 units and be able to meet the setback requirements so that we could build 2 units on our 2 lots, which is what we had. We'd only have 2 lots if it was replatted, where we could build 2 units that would meet the setback requirements. They would be attached as they currently are, but instead of being, Patrick Atwater and Sue, y'all have previously done on the north side of the units, and he has done the same thing. He acquired, the northernlymost lot. He already owned 2, so it's essentially the same request that.
Same thing,
That
going
the
from
Atwaters
3
have
townhomes
requested.
to a duplex,
Correct.
just on the other side. Okay.
So now each part of the duplex is on a separate lot.
They would be attached, and we would have a party wall agreement, but it would still be a townhouse. So they would be 2 individual units, but attached.
Okay, but sitting on their own lots. Whoever buys one side will own the property.
We own the dirt and the unit, that's correct. But they would be attached. You'd have a party wall agreement, just like we do now. In the future, if we wanted to sell one unit, we could. It would allow us to.
So this is basically just a replat, right?
Right. It's,
No setbacks or anything.
no, it's just 3 to 2, and Gail, who's the neighbor at 115A, sent a letter saying that we approved the other one. She lives next door, and she's in favor of it. She thinks it would be a better look for the street. Basically, the summation of what her letter said.
She is our southern neighbor. Our northern neighbor is the one that we actually have the lot under contract with. If we don't do this, they're gonna be a 16-foot wide standalone unit, that if it has to meet setback requirements, they wouldn't be able to do anything with their footprint. So,
Anybody else have any other comments? Okay, close the meeting at this point. Public meeting, anybody from the board have any comments that we haven't talked about?
My concern here is that even when they replat, it still doesn't meet the density for residential general. However, we don't have a criteria for approving this like we do on a variance. And I see no reason why we shouldn't approve it, because we really can't do anything with the property if we don't. So even though it doesn't meet density requirements, I would recommend that we approve it.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, do we have a motion?
I move that we recommend that the council accept the replatting as proposed.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Call the roll when you're ready.
Mr. Driver?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Okay. Don't forget to go to council meeting. You can stay or go. Don't feel bad if you leave.
How long you gonna be?
Usually till 7:30, but we're hoping to be back.
Maybe 7:30, this,
Yeah.
Since we're from Havana, Florida, we'll probably head back.
Thanks for
sit
coming.
down.
Good luck on
Thank
your
y'all
next
very much.
set.
Thank you.
And I would suggest that you go to the Tuesday meeting or have somebody there for you. Okay, next one is,
Thank you.
variance, thank you. Variance request for 117 South 38th Street, Unit C. And Mr. Lance, who's grown to recognize.
Look, and I did put them in the back of this one.
Yeah, we gotta get together on this. Save them for the council.
Yeah, I'll put
I
them in the
don't,
council
I don't
package.
need a rehash
Okay.
of the other meeting, Lance.
It's
All we're doing is deciding on
Jim,
one.
stop and open the public meeting.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I personally don't need a rehash. We've already approved the other 4 units. And this is simply one unit, you know, everything is basically the same as it was presented in the meeting before. So
Right,
I don't
yes.
think you really need
Yeah,
to.
we even talked about this at the last meeting, so.
We knew it was coming.
Yeah,
They're just a
in
month
fact, I
late.
think I questioned about why we would even need it on the agenda last time, but either way, it's easy.
Right. We'll do it. Okay, no other questions, comments?
I'll
Close
make
the
a
public
motion,
meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a comment.
Okay,
I think that allowing the variance for A, B, D, and E was a mistake. It sets a precedence for future, because people can come in and say, well, you did it for them, you're gonna have to do it for us. But I think that we need to approve it because fairness and consistency requires that we approve it. But I would have voted against it had I been here at the meeting in November. But I think that, again, as I said, for fairness and consistency, we need to approve this one also.
okay. So, we have a motion, second,
I said,
okay. Call the roll.
Mr. Driver?
Yes,
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
yes.
okay. Next one is 126 South 42nd Street, 4 units. And Lance, can you give us an overview of what's up?
Yep, this is the same type, variance. You owe them the big copy, or you already have one?
I think we got it.
All right. Same type variance, the only encouragement is as they move Lambert and as they move Seaward, is along the shared property lines, they meet both side setbacks that are adjacent to either the right of way or an adjoining property. They don't interfere with any of the setbacks other than their shared party line. Same situation. They're moving, the landwardmost, units are an additional 10 feet, and the other ones are lining up, they're 2 feet step back, so they end up being 14 feet. And then all of the seaward porches, whereas the other units that we just discussed were asking for a 24-foot open deck, some of them extending further than they were before. These guys are only asking for 12, and most of them had all of that 12 or right at 10 feet already open deck, so just showing that they want to keep that 12-foot open deck, keep the 10-foot covered porch that was there, keep what was there on the slab, and extend Lambert 10 to 14 feet, depending on what
Okay, so as a point of information, then, as I'm looking at this, the top is to the west, correct?
it is. Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's gonna be 7.5 feet,
Right. And
which it
meets
was
that setback.
before.
Right, and it's about 8 feet off. It's 3 to 6 inches to the good on the setback.
Okay, and then to the east is 10 feet, corner setback, and that's where it was before. And then towards the water, it's the deck, push out.
Yep.
And how many feet closest, to the one on the bottom? Looks like it's the closest.
The one on the bottom, to here,
Yes,
same thing, it's about 3 inches on the good side of the setback, it's about 7.7 feet,
Okay.
7.8 feet.
and then around to the parking lot, which used to be the parking lot, plenty of setback there,
Leaves over 43 feet on the parking side.
okay?
Plus now they're able to park under the house also, so there'll be much more parking than there was before.
Do you know how high it'll be? Just
That'll be 8 feet, around 8 feet.
And then the pervious, the pervious and impervious is already been calculated, and they're fine on that as long as they don't do impervious material for the driveway.
Right, the driveway will be gravel, and, that's a condition on here, the driveway construction of permeable material.
Okay. Thanks. Any other comments, questions? Okay, I'll close the public meeting, and any comments from the board?
Okay, we're right now on that slippery slope where we approve the other one, we've got another one very similar to it. And I think that we need to follow the LDR unless there's an overriding, the LDR in statute 707, unless there's an overriding reason not to. And if you look at the criteria we're supposed to consider in looking at variances, it meets number 1, which is the variance shall not authorize changes in the comp plan, the LDR or official zoning map, or densities allowed associated therein. It doesn't meet any of the other 5. And if we approve this one, then we might as well change the statute and the LDR to reflect what we're doing here. Because I see no overriding need. It's, the hardship doesn't relate to the land, something the applicant wants to do, he doesn't have to do it. He can rebuild on the same footprint they had before. I see no reason to approve it.
I got one comment, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
This request actually does meet the LDR. What it doesn't meet is the ordinance on rebuilding the footprint. So if that ordinance, prior to the storm, if that ordinance would have been here about rebuilding the footprint, this would have been allowed, because it meets all the setbacks around it with a party wall agreement, just as any other duplex or quadruplex. So it actually does meet the LDR, it just doesn't meet the ordinance. That was
Okay, I stand corrected then, but again,
Okay,
we need to
so-
rewrite the ordinance if we're gonna keep approving this.
If they tore the place completely down, I mean, this is an existing unit, right?
Right, if there was
No, it's
nothing
all
here
gone.
before the storm, right now, if no structure was here prior to the storm, right now, this could be done. The only, it's a technicality in the way that the ordinance was written, more or less. So if there was no structure here that was destroyed, just a blank piece of land on October 9th last year, today this would be allowed by that law.
Yeah, see, I don't quite understand the clash with the ordinance. Why are we even seeing this? Because if it would be legal, if this place was scrub land and he came in and built it, and he meets all the setbacks, why is it even here?
The way that the ordinance is written is it says if you go outside of your original footprint at all, you have to adhere to all setbacks, all side setbacks. The side setback, even if you're joining somebody, is 7.5, but you can have a party wall and join with a party wall agreement, but it doesn't have that as an extension.
Okay, so,
So it's a technicality.
So if it burned prior to the hurricane, they could have built it back just like this.
Right.
that's my
Yeah.
point. I mean, I don't understand why.
It's the.
They just wanna come in here and rebuild it better, right? Or,
Bigger,
They wanna make it bigger.
bigger,
Right,
but
they're
it still
extending
meets.
landward, but they're not extending into any setbacks,
Right.
they're just extending landward.
well, I agree, it sounds like there's a problem in the ordinance, because it should say if it meets everything else, then they can do it.
It's
That's
just
my
a
point.
legal technicality at this point.
It's that side setback,
Right.
and because they're joined, that's where we get caught
So
up.
for that length that they're extending landward, they're technically encroaching side setbacks, even though everything else is a shared property line. So it's just a legal technicality and the verbiage of the ordinance, but it does meet LDR, but it's not that ordinance for that reason.
If it meets the LDR, then
And this is something that Andy and I have discussed, because it's been November and December that we've really run into this where the ordinance is creating a technicality. So we were in the process of talking about having it reworded how we needed to.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe
if it,
amending it
if you,
for shared property lines.
yeah,
Yeah.
if it comes up and it says, okay, it's gonna meet the LDR, even if it's like a revamp,
Right.
still, the ordinance should reflect that.
And it's something good to go with the party wall discussion too, because that can be included in there, that,
Yeah.
you know, if there's a party wall agreement in motion, that it
And
trumps the
These
setback.
guys are using the same party law agreement, they're using Charles Cross, and it's gonna be written up exactly the same as the other, at the 37th, 38th Street.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion? Or any more questions? Comments?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second? I'll second.
Mr. Driver?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
No.
Can you comment on your no?
My comment on the no is that it doesn't meet the statute. And if we're gonna do this, then the statute needs to be rewritten.
Okay.
I mean, I understand what they're doing, it makes sense, but the bottom line is, we've got rules we have to follow, and it doesn't meet the rules.
But at least we got an out that if somebody comes along with something similar that does not meet the LDR, then
Well, the bottom line is we need to fix what's wrong, and not approve something that doesn't meet the criteria.
It's the language, as we discussed, of the side setback on party wall structures. If that was cleaned up, then
Then I would have no problem.
right, it just goes.
Because right now, it doesn't meet the criteria established.
And I think that's a great point, that we need to get after that, because, you know, if someone paid $300 to come see us, we could have had it cleaned up and not had to go through this. And you're going to
And you
meet.
had mentioned maybe at some point, get something together to present to you guys and the council that would reflect that for that ordinance, so that's, that may be something that.
I know Nick's heard this before, and it'll come up at the council, next
Yeah.
council meeting, but
I'll talk to
if you
him.
could give them a heads
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, I
If
mean,
you
if
go
you just
again.
let them know what we discussed here,
Yeah.
and the need for it, because actually what we're doing now is approving stuff that shouldn't be approved,
Right.
based on the way the statute is.
Right.
Okay. I think we look, Gina, are you there?
Yes, yes,
Oh.
sorry.
Okay, keep driving. Okay, next we have party wall agreement, which is gonna be, Gina, do you have some information on this?
Yeah, you have impacted the national land system.
I don't.
I
Do you
got
have
a
it?
copy. I got a copy of it.
I've got my copy too.
She was
Yeah,
asking about the same.
we wanted to kind of bring it up again and, kind of get a recommendation on what you guys think as far as requiring party wall agreements before really turn it into more, having, having some kind of information sheet that we give people prior to the time, put their form at least, or, we throw around a few different ideas, kind of just discuss one more time and make them part of that recommendation to the council so we can get moving.
Gina, before the meeting started, we discussed it, and we think that it should be part of the process for applying and maybe giving a discount to somebody that has a party wall agreement, 20% or whatever if they've got a party wall agreement in place. That way I don't want to require, I don't think anybody here wants to require it, because I think it brings about legal issues, but I think it's something that should be part of the process for them to consider. And by giving them a discount for having one, I think that encourages it, and it's going to save problems in the future.
Okay?
And, certainly to have the box, you know, to bring it to the attention of the permit, the people that are applying for a permit, to have it stand right out there that, you know, we recommend or whatever would be helpful also. But the council's gonna talk about it on Tuesday, and either Jim and I, one of us will be there, to kind of go over and give our, we're definitely in favor of it, and, we just need to be careful that we don't step over the line is kind of where we are, so we're with you on that.
Okay, great.
Okay. Any other comments on that?
And I do have it in my email, he has it there too, I'll send it back out.
This is the one that Jim didn't like
This
because it was
is,
too
no, this is a
complicated.
newer one that Lance sent over
Right.
2 weeks ago. It was in, we were actually gonna discuss it at this last, council meeting, but Gina was not present.
Okay.
The mayor wanted to
Could
wait
you,
till
could you
Mark.
email
I will, I'll
the- all
email
of
you.
us?
Yep.
Do-
Yeah.
Email me,
Before
if
the-
I'm gonna be there, I wanna know what the new one
Yeah.
looks like.
That'd be great.
One of the updates they did on this one too was actually clarifying that for a 12-inch filing girder system, that the center of the girder would be located at the center of the property line, shared property line, 6 inches on either side. Whether one rebuilds or not, that's allowable to get back that footprint.
Okay, good. Okay, Gina, thank you. Gina, we've got pavers on the, agenda. Is that something you're gonna talk about? We're having trouble hearing you too.
Okay, hang on a second.
Could you stand from, lean it against that, lean it against that coffee cup
I
over
think it is.
Hello?
Hold on, we're tweaking a little bit
there?
here.
Okay, that'll help.
Okay, go ahead.
Is that better?
It is better.
Okay. Favors, I put those on the agenda because, I'm looking for a little bit of direction on that. We've had, since I've been in the building department, we've been under the direction that only pervious pavers are considered pervious. And when I say pervious pavers, I mean porous concrete that actually allows water to go through the paver itself. We've got other kinds of pavers that people are wanting to use that are called permeable interlocking concrete pavers. And these don't allow water to flow through the paver itself, but they have, their joints are larger and they have small stones in the joints themselves. So they let water flow through the joints in between 6 feet.
And let me just stop you there. How wide are the joints? How wide are the joints we're talking about?
Up to an inch, some of them have an inch to an inch.
Okay. I haven't seen
So, we've got normal pavers, that are the regular pavers that stand in between joints. And I think it's been the understanding that those are in fact impervious material. But it's the pervious pavers that have been given the seal of approval, for lack of a better term, of, yes, these are pervious material, just like gravel. So it's been brought up about these other pavers, and, I just wanted to get some direction from you guys and then from the council on what you think about these other pavers, and how you'd like for us to continue to review these plans.
Gina, Jim Bush again. If you were to give a ratio of, say, like the pervious pavers allow, like, say, a rating of 5 of water to come through, what would be the other ones? What would be the ratio to that?
I think they're the same. In my opinion, they allow the same amount of water. And they might even be more beneficial because pervious pavers, it works really well when they're first installed, but after that, they get clogged. And then they don't work as well. The permeable pavers, the water's actually going through the cracks, and it's working more like gravel than porous concrete. If you maintain the pavers, your pervious pavers, I think they'll work great, but I don't know anybody that actually can maintain their pavers.
Yeah, well, we can go around the table and see how the other members of the board feel about that. But I mean, as long as it's the same thing, you're getting just the same water flow through there, I see no reason not allow them. David?
Well, me, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I was just gonna say, not allow, I mean, they're allowed, but the question is whether they're counted as pervious or impervious.
Well, it counted as pervious is I think what we're talking about. If they allow the water through, the same quality that the pervious allow it through, then they would be called pervious. And you could actually go in, and determine these are the ones that are allowed, these are the ones that are not allowed. Is that correct, Gina?
Correct.
And that's what our regulations, when we wrote them, if you remember in there, it said that it must be an approved permeable.
Yeah,
It
but
must be
or,
authorized.
yeah, or something that would allow the same amount through. But I mean, we
Right.
could wordsmith that. But I see no reason to say that we can't use that as long as you get the advantage of water going through.
Okay.
Okay.
Just as a footnote, Gina, I think Gulf County allows the pavers, let's say the old pavers, count 50%, is that still in place, or am I dreaming that?
Not anymore, they changed their LDRs, now in Gulf County, all papers are impervious.
All pavers are impervious in Gulf County,
Yes.
even the pervious or permeable ones.
So they're all impervious?
No, they're all pervious.
They're-
No, they're what? Say that again.
They're all impervious.
Impervious. Like
So
concrete.
basically then,
Like concrete.
Yeah,
they're treating pavers like some concrete.
concrete, yeah.
They were having trouble with people coming in and
Yes.
not putting the right papers in, and good thing with Gina and the EPCI group inspecting, they can,
Tell,
it's gotta come up, you know, if it's not right, that was the problem there. That's what, it's a lot easier to, I guess, I'm assuming this is where it came from, if you go, but it's easier just to make it that way rather than have to chase people around. It became a problem, so.
Right.
It's cold on the front end, and, a couple people tear their driveways up and repave with permeable pavers. Now, start slowing down.
And here's the issue that we are going to run into, that exact same thing. I've done a whole lot of research in the last weekend. Wait a second. Gina, can you hear Lisa?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll yell.
Come
Is
up
that-
closer, because we're struggling.
Go sit next to Bill.
Yeah, sit next to me.
All right.
We're gonna bring her up closer so you can hear what she's saying, because I know she's done a lot of research on this.
This has been a concern of mine for several years, and from what I have researched, permeable pavers, porous pavers, and pervious pavers are not the same thing. And all the research shows that all three types must be routinely maintained, or they do become solid. And that's one of the problems that Gulf County had encountered, and we're going to encounter that because there's no way under the sun that everybody who puts porous or permeable or whatever in there is going to maintain these. And one of the main factors of clogging this is sand.
Right.
And so when you get sand, where are you not going to get sand? All over your pavers in this town. So what is going to happen is you're going to allow way more than the 40%, 40-60 ratio that we have. You're going to allow way more than that. They're not going to maintain it. And it's going to become solid within 2 years. And then we have almost 100% of these lots that are going to be covered. And the water will not have any place to drain. I think it would behoove us tremendously to look at what Gulf County did and just say, no more. Everything that has a paver, regardless of the type, is considered impervious material, and stick very closely to that 40-60 ratio that we have. We already have a problem with stormwater. We know that. Our trees are gone. The water table is not being sucked up in the trees. It's going to take a good 20 years or plus 20 years to get our tree situation back under control. So if you add impervious material to that, you're going to create a far larger stormwater drainage problem than we've got right now. So I think no matter what, you cannot rely on property owners to maintain this to the degree that it requires. So I think that it ought to be just a flat, a paver is a paver, it's impervious. And that, while people are gonna scream and holler, it's not what they want that we need to consider. It's what's best for the city and the flooding that we have in the city already. So I'm begging y'all not to go overboard with this because we've had problems in the past with pavers everywhere, and we're gonna just increase that.
Gina, does your experience reflect what Lisa's saying?
Yes, to an extent. What I think is that right now we're treating impervious pavers as if they were dirt or gravel, and they're just not. I think they have a percentage that is impervious, but it's not 100%. It's not like the same. So, I would recommend that we treat it as it is, as a 40% or some percentage of imperviousness, rather than just giving full credit to a paver.
Gina, on the commercial side, we used, we called them grasscrete at that time, but they were pavers that actually had grass growing inside the square, and those were used for low traffic areas, aesthetically to make them look green from a distance. Those, to me, would obviously have a pervious ratio, 50% or whatever. I think that's a different animal, and that's really not what we're talking about here. Our personal experience with those in the warmer climates, we had trouble with them because the pavers around the grass would get so hot that it would bake the grass in the middle. We couldn't keep the grass growing in the middle, so it ended up being dirt. So I just don't.
That's actually, Dr. Curry's on what they do. She has and there's no grass ever growing in between those.
Yeah.
It's just dirt.
Yep, okay. So right now, as I understand it, Gulf County all pavers are impervious just like concrete.
Correct.
And that's what you're recommending?
Not necessarily. I think pavers should be given some sort of a, benefit, service pavers and service pavers first. But I don't think it needs to be treated just like dirt.
But if they're gonna become impervious over a period of time, then why would you wanna give them credit? Because there's not gonna be any water absorbed through them.
Yeah, I don't feel like they come, completely impervious. But I feel like their impervious is definitely dropped. But right now, we're giving them full credit for being completely impervious.
Gina, do you agree that if they do not maintain them properly, that they become impervious?
I don't know to the extent they become impervious. I don't know that they become 100% impervious. I don't know that from experience. I do agree that if they're not maintained, they lose their impervious nature. But to what extent, I don't know.
Gina, obviously the old pavers, let's call them, they have sand in between, so there is a certain amount that's actually pervious from the old pavers. Do you have a ratio? If you want to throw a number out, we wouldn't hold you to it. If there was going to be a credit, do you have a ratio number in mind or not?
I would think it's 60%, 60% impervious for
40%.
a impervious paver.
40% credit. That's a lot for a
That's a
little,
lot.
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
joint in
that-
there.
I think this needs more research. I'm very concerned based on the knowledge that, that Lisa's research has shown. And I just think we need to look at it in more depth, and I don't think the council should really do anything until we find out just how pervious that's gonna be after 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
But Gina,
Yeah.
we love you raising the flag on this stuff, because it really helps us solve issues that have been in place for a long time. And I know it's a little
Right.
You gotta wade through the mud. Standing ovation. You gotta wade through the mud to clear it up, and that's what we're doing right now. So, what direction you take in the interim, that's for you to decide. But I can tell you that, we'll do some research, and I would appreciate if you could do some research. And let's talk about it in the next meeting with if we can find some paper manufacturers that can give us some numbers, manufacturer numbers that we can verify or whatever as to what percentage is pervious, if any, and how are they after a couple of years with sand in them. We'll go from there.
Because Lisa has a very valid point. Without trees, you see a major rain come in right now. We have swamps in virtual areas around here because there's nothing to soak up the water.
And that's gonna be.
And we sure don't need more standing water.
20 to 30-year problem, because it's the mature trees that soak up the large amounts of water. And so if we start adding more surface that's covered to the 40%, then we are creating problems. And I do not believe that 1 out of 500 homeowners is going to maintain the maintenance that is required to keep these systems permeable. Because we all know what they do down
Yeah,
here.
you got other things to do. Gina, one other thing that I think is gonna come up is, so we have a slab that's existing before this, after the storm, and somebody wants to rebuild on the slab, and their pavers, which do quite well in a storm, are still out front, and the drive is there, and if you count those pavers as impervious, they're not gonna meet the 40% or 50%, depending on what zoning you're in. So we need to think about, what the process is that like the slab, and because it's still existing, it's okay, or are we gonna bring them back to the 40 or 50%? And I don't have a good answer for that, because I know a lot of people have a lot invested in these pavers, and a lot of the pavers are still there. So just keep that in mind.
Right, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Anybody have anything else? Okay, thank you, Gina. I think we're gonna let you go.
Okay.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's the
Good
case,
job.
unfortunately.
That makes a ton. Good discussion, great discussion. And I think it's very helpful to,
I think ultimately it's probably gonna come down to just saying no to Lake Gulf County. I mean, I can't imagine the city getting in the business of sitting here saying, well, you can have this one, or we'll look at this, having a look.
I, for one, am anal in taking care of my property, and I sure as hell wouldn't be taking these things.
yeah,
So,
I hear you.
Well, it's gonna boil down to what we normally end up with in so many of these situations. You're gonna have people hollering and screaming about it. I wanna do this, why can't I do it, it's my property. And then city officials end up caving to them. But at this point in time, I think it's paramount that we look at what's best overall for the city, because we know we have a flooding problem. We know it's gonna be exacerbated by some of the building that's going on. And if we don't recommend and try to convince the council to take a solid, hard line on this, this is easily going to spiral out of control, because they're gonna say, oh, well, this one needs it, I don't see any problem with it, they say it's pervious, they promise they're gonna keep it up, and we know that's not gonna happen.
Yep.
It's going to be an issue for that. What is best for the city versus what does my friend want?
Right, always is. Okay, any other miscellaneous discussion? Okay. Anything? Appreciate you coming.
Nope, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
You'll have a great day.
Do we have a motion to close?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
I bet you're gonna be paid.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, that was a quick meeting.
I'll go back. I want to do some of this research too on papers, and then I'll go to the meeting
You know, I don't know where Lisa got her information,
I will send
but I
it to,
Googled it, and I didn't find a lot.